Oh my goodness. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Sorry to have left you like sitting ducks for a few minutes. We wanted to start on time, so here we are. We will call today, Monday, October 6, 2025, Cumberland Town Council meeting to order. First up is the approval of minutes from the September 22nd, 2025 meeting.
Move to approve the minutes.
Second.
All right, a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Brenda. Okay, great. Next up, we have the manager's report. Mr. Sturgis, what's shaken?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, y'all. Good to see everybody this evening. Happy October. I have a few items that I'd like to report out this evening. First of all, October is shaping up to be a busy and exciting month for outreach and resident services in our community, and we have a full calendar of events and initiatives designed to engage residents and hopefully enhance our town's services. Next 3 weekends on Saturday is going to be busy. We have three, we hope, very popular events coming up with waste events, and they're going to be held at the Public Works Garage at Drown Road from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. This coming Saturday, it'll be universal waste event, so it'll be e-waste that you have if you want to dispose of computers or anything along those lines. This is the day to do that. The following weekend is the big one, and that's the bulky or oversized drop-off event. And we brought that back last year, and it was popular, and we're hoping to have a good turnout again this year. And then finally, on October 25th, it's going to be a confidential shredding event. So if you have documents and items that are sensitive, but you don't know where to dispose of them, this would be a great time to do that, and then we'll take care of that confidentially. Hopefully these will provide folks a good, convenient opportunity to get rid of some waste that is difficult to take care of on the normal day. On October 16th, we're going to have a resident open house right here in the council chambers, and that'll be from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. This event will feature representatives from all town departments and showcasing the services and activities that the town offers. It's a great opportunity for residents to connect with staff and learn more about how we serve the community. The Comprehensive Plan Committee is having a public input session on October 20th, again here in the council chambers. That's going to be from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. and residents are encouraged to drop in at any time during that window and share their thoughts and ideas. We are going to have snacks available, and there will be activities for children. So folks don't have to worry about finding childcare if they'd like to come. It's a good opportunity for them to come in and bring all the generations. Route 100 Safety Improvements Project is ongoing. The town issued a request for proposals for the Route 100 Safety Improvements Project, and that's specifically for the section between Lower Methodist Road and Range Roads. And this is to take out a couple of the blind spots that exist there, and they have found to be a significant danger zone. So proposals are going to be due by October 30th. We've had an initial good turnout from that, at least turnout of interest in the project, and we look forward to receiving those submissions and come forward with this important infrastructure initiative soon. Election season is upon us. Today was the first day of absentee voting. So thanks to Jennifer Doughton and her clerk's office team for their dedication and readiness to assist residents in exercising their right to vote early if they so choose. This is also Fire Prevention Week. So this week is Cumberland Fire and EMS will be hosting an open house at Central Station on October 9th from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. That's going to include educational displays on home fire escape planning, safety topics, and fire and medical services and equipment will be on display. They're also going to have food trucks this year for something new. So folks would like to come and get something to eat while they're checking out fire and EMS. That's a good opportunity for that. Speaking of active living programs have a couple of good events planned for this month. On October 9th from 1 to 2, Back in Action workshop with Dr. Phil Finemore is going to be at the Recreation Center in Valhalla, and that's going to be focusing on active and pain-free living. And then on the 27th, they'll have their active living luncheon. So that's always popular, and that'll be from 11 to 1 p.m. And again, both events will be at the Recreation Center at Valhalla. And then on September 29th, here at Town Hall, we welcomed the entire 4th grade class came to Town Hall. And 2 different sessions, I think 11 a.m. and 2 p.m. And it was an all hands on deck experience. It was a learning experience for them. It was a learning experience for staff. They were just a lot of fun. They got to experience about municipal operations, and the students had the chance to visit all the departments, and they asked insightful questions, and some that just would be pretty refreshing to see that enthusiasm and energy, and they were awesome. The staff actually provided them some good answers, and they all participated in an exercise here in the council chambers, and they got to share their favorite aspects of living in town. And they also, another exercise they had was if they had wishes for the town and for the town's future. So that was really neat to get all that information pulled together, and the town planner has all that. Their responses were so thoughtful and authentic. It was just it was an absolute joy. And a special thanks to our chair, Tig Filson, who attended as well and engaged with the students, and was a blast to have there and got to experience it firsthand. Councillor Vale and I and Councillor McCulloch had the opportunity to sit down and meet with representatives from towns of Yarmouth, North Yarmouth, and Falmouth last week to sit down and explore regional partnership opportunities. And this is a second meeting of, I think there will be many going forward in the future, where we had the chance to review current and combined intermunicipal efforts that we have, looked at shared services and items that we currently are doing and review of those, and then discussion on shared capital equipment where we could find opportunities for that in the future. Also looked at the county efforts specific to fire and regional training and the status and review of the data that they're looking to pull together for the fire and EMS subgroup. We also discussed waste management alignment of contracts. So if we could look at that for all the towns that perhaps looking at a larger bulk approach to doing that and saying, okay, all of our contracts expire at about the same time. So if we could get those in alignment, we could look at one large bid and see how that works. So that was another area. And then we also looked at opportunities for shared facilities management and concepts there that we may find in the future to be helpful. And then a couple of other quick updates. Next week, CMP is going to start cutting or limbing trees along Route 88. So it'll be Lucas Tree. So if you know, the last group that we had who was trimming trees back on Blanchard Road, we didn't have an FYI that was coming our way when they started. That just kind of started. They did let us know on this one. So if you're on Route 88, you'll see that they'll be starting some of that tree trimming next week. The ramp on the floats is coming off the floats at Broad Cove Reserve on the October 14th. So it'll be next Tuesday, and that'll happen in the morning. And I think that is about all I have to report on, Madam Chair. So summer's officially over at Broad Cove Reserve on October 14th. So
Excellent. Not excellent that summer's over, but
yeah.
over to you, Mike.
Thanks.
Matt, you had your first fair experience. You want to tell us how you did? I know you had some stiff competition.
We did. We had some stiff competition from Patriot Insurance there. No, I had the great opportunity last week to learn from the bid master, former Councilor Ron Kopp, and I and my wife sat down at the livestock auction last week, and it was an absolute joy of an experience. Walked out of there buying, I think, 865-pound steer was purchased, and close to 700 pounds of pork with 2 different pigs. So it was a blast. The kids were amazing when they were showing their livestock, and it was just a lot of fun. And so they're going to have some full coolers in the food pantry here in the short term. But thanks, Councilor Reeds. That was really good. And I think former Councilor Cobb gave me a lot of
here he
insights
is.
on how to bid. So
Oh my gosh.
Oh, here he is, our MVP.
Ronnie, we were just talking about the 4-H and
but it was great.
Scary that you're here.
To watch the kids work on that was great. The auctioneer was good, and it was it was a lot of really good people doing a lot of good fundraising for those kids in the event. So
well
best
done.
fair ever. Thank you, sir.
Awesome. Just two others, if I got the dates right for this, just for anyone that might be watching at home. I think November 5th, and I know that we are focusing on October, but for November 5th, we have a neighborhood meet and greet with Mr. Mahalik, right, at the West Cumberland Hall. And then on the 18th, we have a public input for the comprehensive plan also at West Cumberland Hall. Are those dates right? Thumbs up. Great. All right, super. Does anyone else have questions or comments for our amazing town manager? No? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Moving on to public discussion. Public discussion is for comments on items that are not on the agenda. Comments are limited to 5 minutes per person. Rebuttal comments will be limited to 2 minutes. Public discussion topics may be brought up again under new business for further council discussion. Welcome, everybody. Is there anyone who'd like to pop right up? Thank you so much. If you wouldn't mind just telling us your name and where you live, please.
Sure.
Thank you.
My name is Michael Sweat. I'm here tonight representing the Cumberland North Yarmouth Taxpayers Association, or group, advisory group, and I actually live in North Yarmouth, but the group has asked me to speak tonight. First of all, thank you for engaging the residents in this way of communication, and also for serving the community. I think sometimes we take our leaders for granted, and we may feel underappreciated or not appreciated. It sort of feels like being a parent, I think, some days. The goal of our group is to support the elected leaders of both towns and MSAD 51 to encourage governing that is effective and ethical and fair, working collaboratively to foster healthy communities while keeping residents informed and engaged in the process. We are all, like you, taxpayers of our communities. Like you, we run the gamut of ages. Some of our members are here tonight. We've got the gray hair people, but we also have young people on our group. And some of us are in retirement, and some of us have been bankers, accountants, school bus drivers, cafeteria workers, chief executives of various companies, first responders, and other professionals. All of those people are in our group, people that possess those talents. So why are we here tonight? The Cumberland North Yarmouth Tax Advisory supports and recommends the implementation of a tax levy cap for both Cumberland and North Yarmouth and for MSAD 51. We propose to you tonight that annual tax increases be limited to 2%, the higher of 2%, or the cost of living. The tax increase, so why is it needed? You know, we can come up with lots of reasons for why the tax cap's needed, but we've identified 6 reasons. Tax increases are far outpacing inflation. Over the past 4 years, tax increases, particularly on the school side, have averaged 7.7% annually, nearly 2.5 times the rate of inflation. In that time, school spending grew by 34%, adding over $14.5 million in new spending to the budget. This trajectory is financially unsustainable. I repeat, spending up to 34% over the past 4 years, and it's unsustainable. And the argument is enrollment. Well, enrollment went up 6%. Spending has gone up 34%. Our second is voter rejection. We saw in North Yarmouth, voters rejected both the proposed new school and the school budget this year. Cumberland voters narrowly passed some of these votes, 49 votes. Both votes were due and undertaken during very low turnout, citizen turnout. Number 3, there is uncertainty around future costs. The tax impact of the $54 million locally funded school bond remains unknown. We expect the impact will be significant. Some of us attend school board meetings, we attend school finance meetings, we attend select board meetings in North Yarmouth, and we attend meetings here. And in fact, some of us attended the school board finance meeting where they're starting to talk about pre-K, and starting to talk about the new school and the impact. It's millions of dollars. It's going to continue this trend, and it's just unsustainable. I think you guys probably all appreciate that as well. And we also see what's happening in neighboring towns, right, with the revaluation. Number 4, there's a disconnect between inflation and tax increases. Inflation and CPI for 26 projected at 3%. Cumberland taxes rose 8.3% and North Yarmouth 4.6%, both well above inflation. Number 5, reevaluations are worsening affordability. You hear it in Yarmouth, we're going to hear it in North Yarmouth, we're going to hear it in Cumberland. Property revaluations in both towns are pricing residents out. Homeowners can't afford to sell due to high costs, new purchase prices, even in other communities, or they can't stay due to rising taxes. This affects not just seniors, but families, singles, young couples, working residents as well. Number 6, there is uncertainty around state support. Revenue sharing and the school funding formulas are unpredictable, adding further instability to local budgets. Cumberland and North Yarmouth Taxpayer Advisory is not alone in its thinking. The levy caps are a proven solution. Maine Policy Institute supports tax levy caps and advocates for their implementation statewide. 36 states currently have tax levy cap programs, with 8 more considering adding them in the 2025 ballot cycle. The Cumberland North Yarmouth Taxpayer Advisory Group has a range of cost-saving and efficiency recommendations to reduce tax burden without sacrificing essential services. We welcome discussions with all stakeholders. And trust me, top on our list is not how to save paper, costs on paper. In closing, to remind you, we propose to you tonight that annual tax increases be limited to the higher of 2% or the rate of inflation. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Is there anyone else that would like to come on up?
Thanks, Shirley.
Janice Spalding, West Cumberland. The new town assessor recently posted on Facebook that he was happy to dispel any myths circulating around town about revaluation and would willingly meet with residents. My mother, in fact, did meet with him, having previously spoken to another town staffer. Both relayed the same message to her. No worries, no value. Yes, while valuations will go up, so too will the homestead exemption, while the mill rate will go down. This happy face on the impacts of revaluation is not accurate, and you know it. My mother has lived in the same Greeley Road Cape for 60 years on what today would be considered a prime lot. Many of you are familiar with the lot. Similar properties in the area established neighborhoods, which includes Lower Greeley, Main Street, Crystal Lane, Greeley Road Extension, Carroll Lane, and so forth, have sold for 3 to 3.5 times the current property valuation of her home. Some have sold for much more. Both the current and former town manager have both guesstimated at one time or another that the average valuation increase will be around the 60% range, somewhere in the 60% range. In Yarmouth, which just completed its revaluation, the average valuation increase was 67%. She absolutely should worry about her taxes going up on Greeley Road. I live in West Cumberland, in a home I've owned for just over 9 years. A nearby, couple houses down, 816 square foot ranch has a current valuation of $156,000. It's currently on the market for $570,000, 263% above current valuation. It sold this summer for $300,000. Some renovations, not extensive, now $570,000. The home next to it, which is one of the larger ones in our neighborhood with current valuation of $247,000, this summer sold for $625,000. That's 153% over valuation. Tell me that my neighbors and I don't need to worry about our taxes going up. That the folks on Forest Lake have nothing to worry about, or the more modest neighborhoods, the most modest neighborhoods in town that surround it. I know it's not true because in private conversations with many of you, including the current and former town manager, you've told me as much. Even the former town manager said he was concerned about the impact on revaluation on his own home in Crossing Brook. Originally built in the 90s as an affordable neighborhood for families with a second mortgage held by the town. According to public records, following his recent retirement from this position, he sold that home for $835,000. The current valuation is $359,600. That's 132% over current valuation and will impact the valuations of the neighborhood that surrounds it, as will other sales. The town has consistently downplayed the impacts of revaluation on anyone for years, as if somehow miraculously Cumberland will be the first town ever where some people who can least afford it, who can't afford it, won't be among those most impacted, or will be impacted, some dramatically. In a recent town-produced housing marketing deck, It stated if your neighbor renovated and you didn't, their taxes would go up, not yours. And if you owned a home with a current valuation of $600,000 that increased to $800,000, your taxes will go down $25, as if that 33% valuation increase was somehow going to be typical. Will every household go up in taxes? No. But even every assessor estimates 30% of households' taxes will go up, 30% will go down, and 30% will essentially stay the same. 30% of households in Cumberland is over 1,000 households. And while I get you don't want to panic people, downplaying the very real implications for many only takes away their opportunity to make decisions and to plan. And I've said this before, the communication from the town about revaluation, which has been an ongoing weight over residents' heads for years, with false starts and delays, has been absolutely awful. You criticize public comments as misinformation, or in the words of our new assessor, myths, but the town has been responsible for most of that misinformation, both in information that has been put out when it wanted residents to support unpopular and expensive initiatives, and through the overwhelmingly deafening silence the rest of the time. It may be uncomfortable and there may be uncertainties, there certainly are, but you owe it to residents to be publicly honest about it, especially to those who are most likely to be hardest hit and the least able to afford it. And since I have 1 minute left, I'm going to throw in another topic.
Go for it.
In the last few minutes, I'd like to also ask the council and the town manager what you plan to do about the water issues in West Cumberland, and when do you plan to act? The town recently spent $250,000 to extend a water line for a developer in West Cumberland to enable them to build a 72 single-family home development. Yet the Bruce Hill neighborhood has struggled with dangerous water issues for decades, issues that regularly cost those residents thousands of dollars to mitigate, just for safe water. Yet the town has done nothing to extend the public water there while still allowing and encouraging development. My neighborhood, which unlike Bruce Hill does have access to public water, struggles with incredibly low water pressure, made worse by increasing development. Portland Water District recently measured the pressure on the entire length of my road at 50% of normal range. When we asked what the number should be, he said close to 100. Yet a town survey asked the town if the town should extend water lines for new developments on Route 100, not to provide access to safe water or to mitigate low pressure issues or address the lack of fire coverage in some West Cumberland neighborhoods. So I'm here to ask tonight, and will continue to ask, what do you plan to do about the water issues in West Cumberland, and when can residents expect this very serious issue to be addressed?
Thanks, Jana. Anyone else want to come up?
Shirley Story King, Cumberland. Just a quick question. There is another part of our reason, the taxpayers group's reason for coming tonight was to give you some time. Another date on your calendar is early in November when there's the TRICOM meeting between Cumberland, the school board, and North Yarmouth Selectmen. That's November 4th or 5th, or 1st? Early, anyway. So this gives you some time to think about discussion points to have with them, and not paper, like Mike said. I am here tonight to ask you when, if, how, what are your plans for revisiting the cost-sharing agreement between Cumberland and North Yarmouth? October 1st was the state deadline for enrollment numbers, so the school has those numbers. They had to submit them October 1st to the DOE, so they should have those numbers. We were looking, when I left the council, we were looking at a 4% discrepancy between the numbers. Now it's closer to, well, last year it was closer to 6%. It's been 2 years. I think you probably have heard that Gray New Gloucester is facing the same situation. Gray residents took out a petition. I think, just as a former counselor, that's a horse you might want to steer yourself rather than wait for the citizens to start driving that process. I think if you drive the process, you'll be more productive and you'll get it done faster and hopefully represent the citizens well. So that's all I have.
Thank you. And Shirley, this is you, right?
Yeah, well, that's us.
Got it. Thank you. Anyone else want to come on up? If you wouldn't mind just your name and where you live, please.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Mike Morgan, and I live on Farwell Avenue. I live at the end of Hutchins Field and Farwell Avenue, right next to the school. By the way, thank you all for your service as well. It was hard for me to get here tonight, and you have to do it all the time, so I can't imagine. So I'm here to talk about some issues with my property in the school, but also I think it bleeds into some of what you're hearing from other residents here tonight. As you know, Hutchins Field was replaced with a plastic turf field as part of the new school project. In January of 2025, I emailed the school and I asked them if they had any plans to touch the barrier between my house and other houses on Farwell Avenue and the school. They responded back to me and said that there was no such plans to do that. A direct quote from the engineer of the project, I went through, the person that they told me to go through for this, said the intent is to leave the existing fence and the north property line alone and keep all disturbance well away from their property line. The existing trees will not be impacted by the field development, should not be impacted by the field development. I came home one day in late April to find that that was actually not true. They had removed tons of barrier and tons of trees from the property line, not just on school property, but my own property. That actually crossed the property line and cut trees and branches on my property. All the more strange because I was the only person of all my neighbors to reach out and ask if they were going to do it, and my property was the one that had the most destruction done to it. So, that's a huge issue because when I initially emailed them, I let them know that I really wanted that left alone because it blocked the light and the noise. And now, of course, the light and the noise is coming through really significantly. But I would say it's not just my property, it's all the properties along Farwell Avenue. I know I'm here tonight, I think Glenn is here tonight from a different property. People are talking about it and wondering what is going on. I mean, the cumulative impact of the light and the noise is really significant now. I want to just share that I think the town has a vested interest in maintaining the value of those neighborhoods into the future. Folks here are talking about property revaluation. Obviously, if it becomes undesirable to live in those neighborhoods because lights are on until 10 o'clock every night, there's really loud noise, there's rap music about people getting killed, people aren't going to want to live there as much. It's going to impact the property values of the homes there, and that'll have an impact on the tax base for the town as well. I'd also say that I think that particularly over the past couple weeks, really shows that there's a waste of the town's money. The lights have been on until 10 o'clock every single night. Literally no one is out there for hours. Just the lights are on. There's nothing going on. There's no practice and there's no game. It's a really significant waste of electricity, whether it's money or just environmentally. I'd also urge the town and maybe residents as well to go check out the middle school field and ask yourself if that's what you thought was going to happen when the field project was approved. It's an absolute disaster there. I don't understand what they're going to do or how they're going to fix that issue. That field was in perfectly good condition. I can't believe I've been doing 13 seconds only, right? Come on,
No, Mr. Morgan,
something's up at the timer.
I didn't hit the button.
So I
fast
can keep
enough,
going.
sorry.
Okay, good. That's funny. I would really urge people to go check that out. I've lived on Farwell Avenue now for 8 years, so I was here, before. I'm fine with late Friday night football games. I get it. I'm not asking for there to be fewer games or practices or complaining about sports games. This is about something else entirely. That middle school field was used by children in the wintertime, particularly for sledding and for, they played there constantly. It was like a Norman Rockwell painting. Again, if you haven't seen it recently, go look at it. It's really quite shocking for those of us that are old-time Mainers, that it's October and it's 80 degrees, but in 2 weeks, the winter could be here. That's gonna look like an absolute disaster. I'm just asking the town to kind of step in and help manage the situation. There are no schools this close to neighborhoods anywhere else in Maine. I've done my research. There's nothing else like it. No other streets have late night games with lights that are 40 feet high and blasting music. And there's a really vested interest, I think, for all of us to make sure that those homes and those neighborhoods remain a great place for families to live. I think that, what should be done, the lights should be lowered, the noise should be lowered as well, and the town should have some oversight here to make sure that residents who don't have kids in the school don't have issues with their property. So thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Who's next?
Hi, my name is Glenn Morazzini. I live on 15 Meadow Lane, and I share some of the problems around the school's decisions with that field. light, noise, and lyrics. I want to thank Matt for meeting with me, Bob Vale for speaking to me. I've been, 33 years in town. I didn't have an issue with what was going on in that school till about 6 years ago when the lights were donated and the lights were turned away from the school and down and turned out towards the neighborhoods for what I was told the good of the community. My issues with what's going on now are three. One is the lights. It's less of an issue where I am on Meadow Lane, but if my neighbors have an issue in Farwell, it's my issue. These are my neighbors. Number two, it's the PA system. The games are loud. They haven't changed, okay? I have hearing aids. I take them out when the games are on. If you come into my house, the football game, they dedicated the field that night, which started at 8 o'clock, not 7. You could hear in my house the play-by-play with the windows closed. The third issue is with the playing of the rap music. It's not the rap music, it's the lyrics. You've had some obscene F-bomb lyrics over the years, okay? And supposedly, that's been put to an end. I got an email in August from the superintendent. They have a new package. Supposedly, none of that. Well, guess what? 2 weeks ago, I walked down Farwell, and I began to go to some of the houses. And I listened to a mother tell me that one of the practices, the rap musics, there was some sexual language. She's trying to explain to her daughter, who's 7 or 8 years old. That should stop immediately. Absolutely immediately. And I have been promising, it's been 6 years this has been going on, minus 1 year for COVID, okay? This has to stop, and I've asked for some help. So I reached out to Bob. Sometimes other issues are getting impeded. Those of us who are home for health reasons and have to receive telehealth medicine, it's happened to me, and I had a doctor ask me, put off your TV. Takes 3 months to get an appointment, and I have this game playing. I also work part-time. I've done trauma work for 43 years. I had the same thing happen when I got an emergency call at night and I was trying to address a patient. The windows had to be open. It was hot out. I had to drop it. Things are not changing. And when they brought in, supposedly, when they turned the lights, and they supposedly brought in new lights, and I all but begged them, please work it out with us. You were there at the planning board meeting when I said, talk to your neighbors. Please work it out with us. That has not happened. I asked when the new lights came in, I asked again this September when they were turned. No one has come and said, this is what we'd like. Here's the neighbors, Meadow Lane. Here's the people in the condos, elderly people, one woman in a wheelchair who said she can't be out on her patio. I begged these people to come here. But I get it. I'm horrified to talk publicly. But you did get some emails. I know that. This has got to stop. And the school board I've talked to different people, nothing's changed. If it doesn't change locally, what do we have to go to? The state? I actually went to them several years, work it out locally. I can go to the governor's office and file a complaint. And then, of course, we have the wonderful Justice Department, to which SAD 51 is well known. Maybe they'll just blow it off. But what do you think they would do? You've had 6 years, call it 5, where you've had problems with taxpayer money paying for obscene lyrics. And I've got several people who will testify to that. We are your neighbors. And the game should not be above. I heard a woman at Farwell, the lights were so bad, she had little children. How am I going to get them to bed? I almost begged her to come here. We are your neighbors. The board's not getting it. I need your help. And it needs to stop here before it starts going other places looking for justice. Thank you. I appreciate your being here, your hard work, and the decency, just letting me speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Glenn. Who's next?
I'm Link Merrill from North Yarmouth. I belong to the taxpayers group, but I wasn't going to talk. But first, I'd like to say, since Mike brought this up, at the Cumberland Fair and with the 4-H kids, we really do appreciate the involvement of the town of Cumberland in the auction programs. It's folks like the generous people in Cumberland that actually make that work. We always need buyers, and the money that's raised here and goes there is certainly appreciated. So I want to thank you for that. Also glad to listen to the problems that you have about the school over here. Geez, almost makes me happy that it's not in North Yarmouth. But I wanted to offer one more thing on the issues of the revaluation, and I'm sure you're probably aware of it, but I think it bears repeating. I run Patriot Insurance Company on Route 1 in Yarmouth. Our building's maybe, I don't know, 6-8 years old. We got a new valuation. It went up to about 6.8 or 6.9 million. The thing that's really important to note is that commercial properties did not go up anywhere near as much as residents. So I suspect probably almost every business in the town of Yarmouth, their taxes went down. On my building alone, my taxes went from $139,000 to $101,000. I'm just one business. And I can tell you 3 or 4 businesses that aren't anywhere near as big as mine, and I bet $100,000 of tax burden has been shifted from the businesses to the residents. It's, as a member of the taxpayers, I don't know that it's as big an issue in North Yarmouth as we're going through our revaluation because we don't have a lot of commercial properties. I try to count them up. I think we have fewer than 50, and some of them might really be sort of home-based. But in the town of Cumberland, I suspect that this could be more of an issue. So when residents talk about how much their houses may increase in valuation, you really have got to consider that there probably is going to be a tax shift. You know, my building probably went up about 27% in value, but my taxes went down 27%. And I think that's probably the part that is probably least understood. And as was said earlier, the folks in Yarmouth started getting their bills over the last few days. And you know, for elderly residents who are getting tax increases of $1,200 to $2,000, and you know they're in the late 80s, they're having a hard time paying their bills as it is, and these are really difficult things to deal with. If you make adjustments in the programs that are available to seniors to help reduce their taxes, those could also be problematic if there's more demand and you don't have the money available. Those taxes may go up as a result of that as well. So I just want to caution that as you're looking at this, I really believe that if you have a lot of commercial property, there's going to be a tax burden shift to the residents, and they're going to kind of get it twice. They're going to get it in the valuation, and they're going to get it because they're a bigger share of the overall town valuation. So thank you.
Thank you, Link. Who's next?
Dave Noonan, Meadow Lane. I moved on Meadow Lane about 10 years ago or so, and I moved there because of the proximity to the schools. So I actually enjoy hearing the crowds, the whatever music it is, doesn't matter what kind of music it is. So I enjoy hearing that because I know I'm near the schools. And when I get a little older, I'll probably move away if I'm not enjoying that myself. But I just think it's great. Most of my neighbors actually love it because of the fact that we all have kids in the neighborhood, and they walk to school together, they hang out together, they make their own noise. But being able to hear that, and I mean, the other gentleman on Farwell, I'd be pretty probably upset about that too if they actually cut my trees down. Yeah. Definitely something should be done about that. But otherwise, the noise factor, I think it's enjoyable to be able to hear the kids at recess playing. It's quite refreshing, actually. So that's what I get to say.
Thanks, Mr. Noonan. Anyone else wants to come on up? All right. So typically, yep.
I'd just like to make a couple of comments that are in general in nature. Appreciate that everyone here came and spoke this evening. I think that there's an understanding that we treat everybody's concerns seriously, whatever the topic is. We are, I don't like to be, think of us as being the court of last resort, but sometimes that's how it is. And when you have a business of any sort that is operating and there's concerns about their operation, the council will address it. I have some suggestions that I'll make to the council during new business tonight, where I think maybe some actions may be taken. I'm not addressing everything that was brought up here this evening, but I do want to make sure that people understand that there is not a your concerns are not heard in vacuum and ignored. That there is a active hearing here by all of us.
Thank you, Bob. I was just going to say, because there are some new folks here, so it hasn't been, or at least my practice as chair, to do a back and forth during public comment, and that is because digesting and taking notes and then giving yourself a moment to say, to kind of think thoughtfully about it, I think is really important, especially as we had, 3 new counselors join 2 years ago. And now we've got Mr. Mahalik here on the hot seat. Try to replace Mr. Kopp in the back. No, there's no replacement for anyone. We're just all a new group. But we do kind of make a point of following up on all of these different agenda items. So if that happens during new business, that may, on certain things, if folks have had enough kind of time to digest and think them through. Councillor Douglas, who's the chair of our finance committee, poked me and said to Michael, Mr. Sweat, you should expect a note from her to hear about some of your ideas around the tax levy caps. So we will get back with all of you, and it's really nice to have you all here. We didn't have anyone here during the fair, so it's great to have people here in kind of faces. So just to kind of reiterate what Bob said, we heard everything. I've taken a lot of notes. I know other counselors have as well. And so even if we don't hit these things in this particular moment, you can, and I would hope, expect a response to all of your beautiful comments and concerns. And thank you for being here this evening. And feel free to stick around. With that said, we are going to move into, unless there's anyone else that wants to make a final comment? No. Okay. All right. So we're going to close public discussion and move into legislation and policy. Also, as part of legislation and policy, there is an opportunity for public comment per Article 2, Section 7 of the Town Charter. There will be an opportunity for public comment on each item on the agenda. Comments are limited to 5 minutes per person. First up is 25-102, to consider an act on authorizing the code enforcement officer to enter into a consent agreement with property owners located at 5 Old Musket Road. Okay, so it looks like this was a long-standing setback violation going back to the 70s and early 2000, and it looks like the town attorney has come to a pretty good place with the resident. Is that a fair assessment, Mr. Manager?
That is a great way to put it, Madam Chair. This is something that you see more and more often these days as survey technology has improved, and also the underwriting standards in lending has also kind of focused that issue a little bit tighter. But yes, Mr. Longley has worked with Mr. and Mrs. Miller on this item, and as well as worked with the town's attorney to get a curative item for this, and that curative item is a consent agreement on this. Oftentimes what you find is by no fault of the property owner, because they may be the second, third, or fourth property owner to come across it, but unfortunately they've inherited the bad luck of having to get it fixed. But this is pretty much you could say a no harm, no foul type of thing, and there is a remedy here that exists. So the town's attorney has drafted the consent agreement for the town council to take action on. I think it's about 1.5 feet on one corner and 1 foot on another is the egregiousness of the violation. So that's how close it is. But in this, it's been a completely amicable settlement to do. Part of the deal, as you saw with Mr. Longley's memo, as well as in this, that there's, I think $750 that's gonna change hands, and that takes care of the towns as part of the consent agreement. $500 is the civil penalty, and $250 is pretty much what the attorney's fees would be. So it's a total of $750. And once the council decides to authorize this, Mr. and Mrs. Miller will sign it, and Mr. Longley will sign it, and it'll get recorded. And from this point forward, the problem will be fixed, and they can move on with their life without having this as a pendulum swinging.
Before we go into council discussion, is there anyone in the audience this evening that would like to comment on this particular agenda item? Yep, please come on.
I don't need to comment, but my husband and I are the owners of the property, so if you have questions,
Well, welcome and thanks for being here. So we'll close public comment for now unless we have any specific questions, and open it up to council discussion. I think Mr. Magoon had a question.
Just comment. I mentioned this to Matt earlier. Just on the second to last page, if we can change item number 6 from the council meeting on October 7th to October 6th.
Yep, we'll take care of that either by pencil technology or other, but we'll do it with it's a scrivener's error. We can have that corrected.
One other thing I want to flag here. This seems to be the second setback issue we've had on Old Musket Road in the last 2 years. Is there a general issue with setbacks on that road?
Or muskets.
I don't know. Should we be concerned? Should there be a,
I
you
think
know what
that-
I'm trying to say?
I
This
think the
is the
developers
second.
moved on since then.
It's the
but,
70s.
I'm just
knowing a
saying,
little of the history.
is this more of a blanket issue that needs to be addressed? I don't know. It seems like general.
Councilor Douglas,
Generally.
yeah, to your question, I think it's more of a one-off, although the coincidence is of 2 properties, but oftentimes
Yeah.
it's, so, I guess my worry wouldn't be that someone did the monumentation from the, in the original survey was done and everybody went off that original monumentation. It might have been off by a degree or 2 or something
Yeah.
like that. But I think in this case, it's more of a one-off. You can find them on occasion. I would,
Who's to blame?
it's a bloodless foul.
The developer? I need to know.
No, it's,
No,
I
I'm just
mean,
kidding.
it's really just the technology has just got
Okay.
that much more accurate now with digital surveying that they have before would have been, a compass and a sextant to do
Yeah.
the survey.
There seems like a lot for a homeowner to go through just to write something that they thought was right anyway, It's kind of a bummer.
Yeah.
I'm in support of this, obviously. I don't have any issues.
I'm in support. Any other counselors want to comment
Andrew
on
wants
I'm
this?
ready to give you a motion.
Oh, someone's ready with a motion.
Before we get into the motion, just more of a quick question on the general process of this. Is there any? I'm guessing the answer is no, but any way to sort of easily, without having somebody go out, property by property throughout Cumberland, and just sort of
Digitally map
get an idea of what we're looking at with these and try to, be a little more proactive, or, are we just waiting for somebody to come back to the town for a permit to do whatever and then find out that, something's a foot off and, to the no fault of their own, that it's, all right, well, that's another cost that they have.
Yeah, that sucks.
It's, Councilman Good, it is fairly rare, I think. I've been doing this for 31 years, and I think I might have seen 5 over that time period, either as a council member, or as an assessor, or as a manager. So they are
That's what I'm saying.
they are fairly rare as you come across it. So I think this is probably the best solution you can find as a one-off, because I don't think it's a chronic item. I started to think about lakefront properties. Those are really tight. That's just happens to happen more there, or I've seen it in new construction where the contractors had to actually, chop a piece off to fix it. But it's
Why
like I
are
said,
we charging them $500, I guess? That feels kind of crummy. They didn't do it on purpose.
Yeah, I can't tell you. It's more of a, I think it's been
Administrative fee.
what the council's, how the town's handled that in the past.
Yeah. Okay.
I can tell you that, knowing how the developments occurred on Main Street, Carroll Lane, B Lane,
Yeah.
Hedge Road, you know, the houses were located with nothing more than a tape measure. And, you know, the setbacks were generous so that the accuracy really wasn't needed, but they really, you know, you go back to the technologies that today we do everything with total station, GPS, and so and the setbacks today are much different than they were 50 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can,
the
you can.
tolerances are much tighter.
You can be within 1/16 of an inch of a total station. So you can't get much closer than that.
The last two waterfront houses that I built, we put a pin in the footing and recorded it, beats and bounds on total station, because we were that close to the setback from the water frontage, and we didn't want any questions asked.
And to the point, this is a violation really of the building envelope, which is less invasive than if you were over your neighbor's property line. Then it gets a whole different kettle of fish at that point. A lot more expensive because you're trading properties and trying to figure that out. So I've seen that a few more times than the other, but.
Most of the lot lines were surveyed, but setbacks were never surveyed. It's, you know, it really was a tape measure.
Okay.
Any other thoughts or comments? All right, Mr. Mahalik, I'll take that.
I move to authorize the code enforcement officer to enter into consent agreement with the property owners located at 5 Old Musket Road.
Second.
Is there any discussion on the motion? All those in favor? All those opposed? Mike, was that, okay. Sorry.
In favor.
In favor, okay,
I'm
great.
sorry, Tig, I
No,
was- I
you're,
was
Reading.
reading the motions.
I
Sorry
will
about
not
that.
hold it against you, don't you worry.
Oh.
Then again, and you're just.
Motion
I zoned
carries.
out.
Brenda Moore, watching at home. Thank you. Okay,
Are
awesome
you gonna give
sauce.
us a bundle approach here?
Thank you both so much for being here. We don't often get folks here, so it's wonderful to have you.
Tig,
Come
you're
back
sta-
again, but
Tig,
not
you're
for this
starting-
reason. Not for this reason.
Tig, you're starting to sound desperate. Okay, like let's
Well,
not.
anyone who knows me, you know, it's okay. Okay, cool beans. All right, so next up, we have 25-103 to set a public hearing date of October 27th to consider and act on the adoption of the Maine Municipal Association's Model General Assistance Ordinance for the period of October 1st, 2025 through September 30th, 2026. It may feel like a little bit of deja vu since we looked at the numbers last week, but my understanding from our amazing town manager is that normally both of these things, the ordinance as well as the numbers, come to us in one sitting, but MMA had a little bit of a delay this year, so we are doing them as two separate agenda items. It's a routine renewal, and tonight I'm kind of looking at the DHS maximums for food, housing, and utilities for October 1st, 2025 through November 30th, 2026. We have to do this annually. It didn't look like there were many substantive changes, and I know that this is just for a public hearing, but is there anything that I missed there?
Right on the spot, Madam Chair.
Okay,
I'm so proud of you.
once in a while.
It's good.
Is there anyone from the public that would like to talk about our public hearing potential date? Okay, any council discussion?
If there was an item that required brevity, this was it.
That's just another.
100 pages.
Another reason behind having it electronically, Councilor Vale.
Yeah, well, if I had a paper one, I could have gone to the next item a little bit quicker than scrolling through this. Anyways.
I'll give you a motion.
Excellent.
I move to set a public hearing date of October 27th to consider and act on the adoption of the Maine Municipal Association Model General Assistance Ordinance for the period of October 1st, 2025 through September 30th, 2026.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Unanimous, Brenda. Awesome sauce. Okay. We have another public hearing in 25-104 to set a public hearing date of October 27th to consider an act on an automobile graveyard junkyard permit for Cumberland Salvage for the period of October 31st, 2025 through October 31st, 2026. I am very glad that we are in spooky season and we're talking about graveyards on our agenda tonight. Okay, so basically here, if I'm kind of tracking everything, another annual permit. And this is really kind of about safeguarding materials, right? To make sure that everyone's being a good operator and that the oil isn't going into naughty places or antifreeze or anything like that.
That's correct, Madam Chair, and it's an annual renewal, and staff has no concerns on this or the next two items as well. Everything's solid operating. We're good.
Also, you can resell antifreeze?
Yeah.
How did I
And-used
not
oil.
know that?
Yeah.
No business for you.
It's a racket.
Is there anyone from the public who would like to comment on our automobile graveyard?
Madam Chair, I'll give you a motion.
Thank you, sir.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion for item 25-104 and 25-105, if there's no objection from the council. I move to set a public hearing date of October 27th to consider an act on an automobile graveyard junkyard permit for Cumberland Salvage for the period of October 31st, 2025 to October 31st, 2026. And also with the same business, I move to set a public hearing date of October 27th to consider an act on an automobile recycling permit for Cumberland Salvage for the period of October 31st, 2025 to October 31st, 2030.
About 106? What? You want to bundle 106? in
No,
there?
because Cop Motors is here and we expect our former counselor to come up to the
Yeah,
podium.
we gotta get him up here.
Ron's not getting off though.
Two different businesses.
Okay.
I'll second that, Mike.
All right, we've got a motion and a second. Well done on that motion, Mike. Thank you for bundling that together. Is there anyone in the public that would like to comment on the?
I just have a question on the motion, that's all.
Yeah. Okay. But just because we didn't do.
The second one.
We bundled,
Yep.
yeah. So is there anyone that would like to comment on 25-105? No. Okay. Over to you, Andrew.
Just a question of why we go from October 31st to October 31st instead of November 1st to October 31st?
I think that goes back to when it was originally issued. So they've kept that date all along would be my guess. So it's an annual permit, and that's pretty much, I think that probably goes back multiple years to when it was first granted. So that from that point forward, you kind of started day one here and day 365 there.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, 'cause normally it's, the first through the end of that month, but okay, it's just,
Yep. Usually
I
that's
haven't seen
how
it this
it
way
goes.
before.
Yeah.
So.
I think they're really leaning into Halloween.
Maybe I just want to celebrate my wife's birthday. I don't know.
Oh, that's awesome. So we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion on the motion before we call for a vote? Okay, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor? Unanimous, Brenda. Okay, great. Our last item under legislation and policy, 25-106, to set a public hearing date of October 27th to consider an act on an automobile recycling permit for Cop Motors for the period of October 31st, 2025 through October 31st, 2030. Before we go into council discussion, are there any former town councilors that would like to come and talk to us about this particular agenda item? Or anyone in the public?
Madam Chair, councilors, good to see you. I do miss you.
Don't lie.
We've missed you too, Ron.
just a little clarification. My application is for an automobile recycler's permit, not a junkyard permit. I'm mandated by the state to have this. What happens is I tow in a vehicle from an accident, and legally, within 7 days, if nobody comes to claim the vehicle, I'm supposed to file for ownership. Just for instance, I have a Lexus that was rolled over on the interstate 3.5 weeks ago. It's a 2024 car. The insurance and the owner are squabbling, so it's still sitting on my yard. It's been there for over 21 days now. I haven't filed for ownership because I know it will be settled, but yet 21 days into it, now it's expired the 7 days that I'm supposed to file for ownership, which, I mean, I know the owner or the insurance company is going to come get the vehicle, but by state statute, I am supposed to file for ownership within 7 days. Link's probably run into this a few times. In fact, one of his guys was at my shop today or yesterday looking at a vehicle, which in a timely fashion, they'll get it out of there.
It costs me money if I keep it at your place.
Well, and that's exactly right. I mean, I charge $100 a day per car for storage, and that prompts them to get them out of there in 7 days. I have a van that I towed from LL Beans 2 weeks ago that was involved in theft from LL Beans. The owner is incarcerated. Do I file for ownership, which I have 2 more days, and then I have to legally file for ownership? But that's why some of these vehicles end up sitting in my yard. I'm not really a recycler, but the state says that I am, because when I take ownership of this vehicle, I have to dispose of it, so therefore I am recycling these vehicles. I wish everything left in 7 days. I mean, I don't mind collecting 21 days of storage at $100 a day, don't get me wrong. But I wish, you know, there are cars that get tied up in lawsuits and everything else, but just a little clarification on why I'm here. It's not because I want to be a recycler. I'm forced to be by the state of Maine, so. If you have any more questions.
No questions.
And to Andrew's question about the October, that's state mandated, I believe. He has to go through a state license as well, and I believe the state says by a certain date, this has to be approved. So I think it's mandated by the state of Maine, so. But
So you're just blaming the state for all this, for everything?
Exactly.
All right, just make sure.
Don't blame me.
Thanks, Ron.
Thank you all. Good to see you.
Is there anyone else in the public that would like to comment on our public hearing date? All right, any council discussion?
I'll give you a motion. I move to set a public hearing date of October 27th to consider and act on an automobile recycling permit for COP Motors for the period of October 31st, 2025 through October 31st, 2030.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Unanimous, Brenda. Okay. Next up is new business. We'll start at our far right with Councillor Mahalik.
All right. So the last meeting, I made a mistake and I got out of here without leaving my $20 for the food pantry.
Wow.
So hopefully the $3 in interest I'll throw down on that will make up for it. So I'm gonna put down $43 tonight. But
It's an aggressive interest rate.
it was basically I cleaned out what I had out of my wallet. So basically I got about a bunch of stuff on here tonight, but some of it's more important than others, but I'll just go through it and how I have it written down. You know, just as the days are getting shorter, you know, I happen to work in a pretty safety conscious company and have kind of adopted safety as a way of life, but you know, people are out exercising, days are getting shorter, you know, in the dark, and you look at, you know, visibility of our citizens and, you know, yeah, you can say that it's on the driver to be aware of the people in the road and so forth, but at the same token, I kind of think that, you know, I know where I can get a reflective vest tomorrow, but, you know, there's a lot of people that may not know, and I'm wondering almost, is that something we should maybe put out on our website? I mean, I think, you know, just where people can get that stuff. I mean, it does make a difference when you're on the other end of it and you're in the car and you got a person who's completely in black, and just hate to have somebody get hurt. So just a thought I had this morning. November 5th, 6 to 8th, West Cumberland meeting. And then more important matters, water mains. I think, it's something we need to obviously talk about, and I know it's on our, CIP discussion in a couple weeks, or maybe it's a month, but it's coming up. Just coupled with that, I know I'm probably going to sound like a broken record because I've said this a million times, but, I think the more we publicize our financial picture, the more it will allow our voters to know the facts before they go to the polls. We heard about the initiatives from the tax group, and I think it all loops into the same place because there may be people who have made decisions in the past that if they knew other information, they would have decided differently. And then lastly, in Hutchins Field, as a graduate of Greeley, proud of what that school system did for me. Honestly, it gave me a leg up on life, and I owe it some of my success. So, but, I sat on the planning board during the approval of the Hutchins Field project, and, some of the conditions of approval was noise and light pollution, and the citizens came out and they did speak about it. And, so I feel maybe it's due for some more further discussion. And that's all I have. Bob, sorry to steal your thunder, but I put my name on that, so I wanted to say something. So that's all I have.
I don't think you're stealing anyone's thunder. We're going to talk about all the good stuff. Councillor Thorson.
All right, got some library stuff, and then I'll tack onto that with some stuff I've been doing over here. Luckily, our agenda tonight, I wouldn't say it's boring or anything, but it was pretty standard, so I was able to kind of multitask here. I was still paying attention, though. But, so, two things brought to you by the North Yarmouth Waste Reduction Committee. They're just, like, on fire all the time, partnering with the library, which is really cool. They are now partnering with PML to offer the library now as a Trex drop-off location. So if you have bags that you can't recycle, like bread bags or thin plastic, things that you can't recycle, and usually we would probably just trash it, unfortunately, because it's not recyclable, like bubble wrap and stuff, you can bring it to the library. They will package it up and send it off to Trex, and they will create composite decking out of it. I've seen this other places, and usually it's like you have to find a drop-off place and they're far away, but now we have one at the library, so it's pretty cool. So that's available. Additionally, the repair fair is on the 25th of this month from 10 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. As I understand, the last one was very successful, so it's free. You can bring bikes, lamps, electrical and small appliances. There'll be knife tool sharpening, clothing repair and mending, jewelry repair and cleaning, wood and small furniture repair, and it's all just done by community volunteers. So bring your stuff, it's free. People will be there to help you fix your stuff so you don't end up trashing it. Again, brought to you by the partnership of the North Yarmouth Waste Reduction Committee and PML. So talking about everything that was spoken about during public comment, I was looking back at a handful of things. So first is the Noise Control Ordinance, Chapter 175, which was tossed around February 2024 by the council at the time. Looking at the discussion, it was unanimous that it would be tabled to a later date. I looked at those minutes. It was not brought up, so I don't know whatever happened to that, if that was tabled indefinitely, but it was not enacted. But it was going to be our attempt at seeing if we wanted to adopt Kennebunk's ordinance for noise. The primary issues that the council brought up and the then town manager was enforcement difficulty. Additionally, buying equipment to measure decibels, training the police department on such processes and procedures when the code enforcement officer was not working at the time because it's evening, it's outside of those working hours. So hard to enforce, however, what's the alternative, right? Call the cops on someone. Basically, that's the only recourse that people have when they're dealing with a nuisance. And a nuisance is a thing that's supposed to be protected. It is defined. It is, in Maine, it's defined as a loud or disruptive noise that unreasonably interferes with peace, comfort, and safety of others, and is typically backed by ordinances with measuring devices to prove that it is an ordinance, usually with 15 minutes of sustained measurement. It is doable, it is hard to enforce. However, if you had a site plan approval on the basis of conditions of noise, light, and buffering, and you are not meeting your part of the deal on noise, then there needs to be some sort of enforcement. So I don't know whatever happened to that, why it fell off, and if we need to revisit it again, but I'd be down for that. See if it's feasible, see what all it would entail, because the alternative is call the cops on someone or deal with it. So it doesn't really leave people with much recourse. Additionally, talking about the planning board minutes, I was looking back at the site plan approval, and on the matter of exterior lighting, planning board finds the standard dissatisfied for the new school building because the lighting plan shows the building's site circulation ways and parking will be lit from downward facing pole mounted and building mounted lights using state-of-the-art LED lighting fixtures. Doesn't say anything about the field, so I don't know if that was separate or not, but additionally, on the buffering, the planning board finds this standard dissatisfied because the proposed project will provide buffering to the neighborhood to the north, south, and west, which is supplemented to the existing vegetation that will be preserved along adjacent property lines. So unless the school has an easement that they were cutting into on property lines, this seems like a violation of the agreement. So I would be interested to know what the recourse is for people when these conditions were not met after the fact. So lots to touch on, and it does ultimately fall to us because these are things, they go through review. There is an agreement made between town planning board, developer, whatever. If it's not held to that standard, there needs to be something. And typically these are enforced by ordinances. So if we need to figure it out or create some or do whatever we need to make sure that people aren't being subjected to things that they weren't, I'm fine to do that.
Can I make a comment on that?
Sure.
I think totally hear you, Denise, and I definitely agree it's in violation of kind of what was submitted. I think my concern lies in the fact that, like, why are we getting involved in this? I think it's like, from my perspective, it feels like this is a school and property line issue. I feel like it's being escalated to us, but I don't know. It's hard for me to, like, feel like we need to take action until I have, like, a better footing of, like, what the communication has been between school and property owner. And also, I also want to be cognizant of the fact, Matt, do you have some insights?
Yeah, Councilor Douglas, there are areas there that I know the staff's been working, the planner's been working, code enforcement officer's been working with the school. They've had, at Mr. Morgan's property, they cut the heck out of.
Yeah, I saw that.
that
I mean,
tree.
that's not awesome.
And
Like,
that
I would
was-
be upset if I was him too.
Yeah, that was one of the site work contractors, so they've got to mitigate that.
Yeah.
I met with the school administration on Friday and brought that specifically up and said, that's a serious problem
It
for
is.
us, and it's more than a serious problem
Yeah.
for Mr. Morgan and his family. So, they said, the town's been receiving emails and correspondence relating to noise
Yeah.
levels and lighting. And, I understand it may be a school-related item, but when they're coming to the town, it's now on the town's radar. So I know staff's been working with that to try to say, okay, you need to be in compliance with your site plan. They've had a couple of issues that they're working on to try to cure. They took some trees down that they weren't supposed to, so they have to do some replanting and things along those lines that staff's working on. But the big thing is working with your neighbors. That's kind
Yeah.
of the other side of it. And that may be more of a school board side and administration side to try to find a path forward that's workable and being respectful to all parties involved.
Yeah.
And trying to find that. But you've got new lights, new sound system.
Yep.
And a bunch of cutting that's taken place over there that's, you got to find a way to make it work for people, and that's kind of the message that we had that conversation with on Friday, just to try to bring some of those.
And I
areas
agree. I just
forward.
don't know that we have a role in it, and I don't know that, like, not to say I want to pass the buck by any stretch, because I would love to be part of the solution, but I also want to be cognizant of the fact that we're not like designing ordinances to resolve a situation that should be resolved otherwise. Like, and personally, I don't find it sufficient to put in a sapling tree when he's living there currently, and that, like, the school needs to pay to put in mature trees. Like, that's not acceptable. Like, I don't agree with that personally, but I also don't know what I don't think our role in it should be like designing an ordinance, because that's not going to fix his problem today necessarily.
I mainly was looking to see if we have a noise ordinance in place now, which would address the issue, but
Yeah.
it's like, there was like a whole process, it fell off. I want to know what happened to it.
Yeah. Oh, that's not
Because I wasn't here at the time, but it's a tertiary issue. I'm not saying design ordinances around this.
Yeah.
But if noise is a problem and it can be measured and it can be enforced,
Yeah.
like, it's there. Other towns do it. So it's just
Yeah.
something anyways that has been brought up multiple times for other reasons and hasn't gotten anywhere.
Mhm.
So just saw that in the course of looking this over. And then, yeah, I mean, yes, work with school.
Yeah.
Hold them accountable to their site plan or whatever. But ultimately, this does involve nuisances. It involves things that towns are responsible for and the schools within the town. So
Yeah.
ultimately, it is our responsibility to make sure things are going as they should, if it can't be resolved at that level.
When it came up in 2024, it was also a little bit of a neighborhood problem. It was a generator that was a little bit loud, and that was sort of the origin of the dialogue, and everything that you mentioned was entirely accurate. Kind of someone going to the property line with your decibel meter. Bill Longley works under town time, and the rest of it would go to the police. And I think that we ultimately got to the place that this was something that sort of needed to be resolved by these neighbors, rather than creating one reactive ordinance, because once you create that larger noise ordinance, which is super difficult to enforce. Not saying that we shouldn't do it, but it's just also really, really difficult, that we also wanted to sort of put this back to the neighbors to sort of work together to figure that out, which I think is also one of the things that Matt is poking at. That is not to say, Denise, that this is not something that ordinance should look at again. Just a little bit of history as to why that came up in 2024 and then didn't really go anywhere, and it was because we sort of wanted to redirect back to the neighbors to sort of solve this, and of course the enforceability, unless Mike or Bob, if there's anything that I forgot from that particular situation.
Madam Chair.
go for it,
one-
please.
One other item from meeting with Mr. Morzini as well, was we're looking to find a way to get some data and get a measurement. There's a football game this upcoming Friday night, and trying to work with staff to find a way to get noise levels at the property line, to try to figure out what that is. As our conversation was, it's like, okay, what do we have? What's measurable? And so if you know what it is, that versus the anecdotal of it's too darn loud, and that's too darn loud for one, might be just right for someone else. So in this case, you can look at that, and there are decibel levels that folks can look at and say,
65 or something?
Yeah, I
I don't
mean,
remember what it was in the draft ordinance.
Yeah, I mean,
It's just pretty quiet, actually.
Yeah.
65.
I mean, there's buffering, there's things like that you can do, but there's also, there's volume controls that you can look at. So we're trying to find a way to hang some data on it, at least to have, to provide that into the conversation and say, okay, this is what a 20 kilowatt generator sounds like at the property line. This is what, what people find as an allowable noise level. So trying to have that, at least have something that we can at least look at different points, and then say, okay, now we've got this, and any way we can look at it to advocate to say, okay, this is enough's enough.
Additionally, not all the leaves have fallen off yet, but if any of that buffering was deciduous, there goes your buffer as well.
As well, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great point.
I mean, it's pine, so it's. I don't quite understand who did the tree work out there, but that was, I mean, they trimmed his trees like all the way up. Like, that was unnecessary. I mean, I think as far as our involvement goes, like, obviously I'd like to see a resolution, but it's like, I don't know, like, from your meeting, did they seem to want to fix it? Like, what's?
Yeah, talking with superintendent and the business manager, they know, especially with Mr. Morgan's property, they're like, yeah, we've got an issue there. So I'm not sure if their plan is to do fencing, find different, because, yeah, 6, all due respect for lovely evergreens, 6 evergreen trees that are
not okay.
2 feet high are going to take 30 years before.
Yeah.
I mean, that they know that doesn't. They know that wasn't. That's a.
He did it anyway.
Yeah, that's a pinky Band-Aid on a large wound. So they know they've got to address it, and
Yeah.
that's what they said they were going to do. So, but there's more that has to be done, and they fully acknowledge it. And then the light thing was, I said, Jesus, why do you have your lights on at 10 o'clock at night on a Thursday? I looked at the sports schedule. There were no games. You know, it might have been a practice ended at 8 o'clock, something like
Yeah.
that. But no, Glenn, Mr. Morgan sent an email at 5 of 10. The lights are bright as daylight. It's like, you know, so they said, yeah, they messed up, and they're going to have, you know, they spoke with the AD on that. They're going to make sure that it gets turned off.
Yeah.
You know, earlier it's like, well,
It's a learning curve. I'll give them that. I'll give them that, right? The field's new. It's all learning. But I definitely think, like, this could be quickly resolved.
Yeah.
And I think it's not an unreasonable expectation. But
I don't disagree with you that, you know, I don't think we need to pass an ordinance and go down that road. But I think it's kind of like, you know, Matt was talking about, let's get the facts, let's get some decibel measurements.
Yeah.
You know, let's figure out what's their policy on lights. You know, if they don't have a game or they don't have a practice, they're off by whatever, and get everyone on the same page and
yeah.
and try to move forward. And obviously, you know, we got some vegetation that's destroyed, but, you know, I think if we can move in that direction, then
Yeah.
we don't need to do anything. But if that isn't happening, then, you know, then
yeah, sure, yeah.
Yeah, well, what do we do?
Yeah.
I mean, it's,
Yeah, we've taken from the staffing level, we've taken it very, you know, very seriously. And Councilor Vale and I've had a lot of conversations about it as well, just trying to find, you know, Chris and I had that meeting on Friday about that, and specifically wanted to make sure we brought that up because it's a concern. You know, it may be the school's item, but again, to Councilor Thorson's point, there were approvals that were given at the planning board level, and if it was, you know, if it was a business that was doing it, we wouldn't say that's okay. You know, it's you know, we'd want to find a way to get it corrected.
Yeah.
So that's the enforcement side of it, that we're trying to make sure that the town lives up to its responsibilities on that side of it.
Go for it, Bob.
Denise, were you done?
Yep.
All right, so I have a few items here, but I guess I'll take them out of order because I think that I want to address the school first. It is absolutely the council's job to react to the citizens' request. We don't ask the neighbors to work it out amongst themselves when it comes here. That means that there's been a failure. So the council's been asked to address some problems, and that's what we do. When the fairgrounds, Chet's wanted to expand their operation of harness racing, they came before the council. There was many concerns voiced about what about excess noise, because it wasn't just the fair week, it was additional usage. And I think we were all clear and all understood that the idea behind a turf field was that we can use it more, and not just a little more, but a lot more. I had the opportunity last Sunday to actually go down onto the turf field, took the dogs for a hike, and we went down, walked on a turf field, and I looked around and I looked at the location of the speaker boxes, I looked at the location of the lights. I drove around a couple of neighborhoods, talked with a couple of people that live down there, and admittedly, there are people who like the noise and there's people who do not like the noise. Unfortunately, we have to deal with the people that do not like the noise, who do not like the lights, who do not like their trees being cut. So It is the job of this council to react to those things. And we have to bring satisfaction to the man whose trees were cut. It's not the school's job. The school we treat them just like everybody else. They are a private enterprise that operates in our community. They're no different than Cumberland Salvage, Cop Motors, the Cumberland Fairgrounds. They are treated just the same. And we are expected to treat and act just like that. There's no special treatment because they're the school or they're doing something different. The idea that we just going to pass this off to your conversations with the superintendent, frankly, isn't enough. I believe that we will direct whoever has the capacity to monitor noise. Let's go down there and see what the noise levels are. What are the light levels? What is the overflow? It's not because we have 3 games in a season. We have 30 games now. So it's not that we are trying to be onerous or put a thumb down on there, but we need to respond in a manner that shows that the community knows we heard them and that we will take action. And we would do the same thing if the people from the fairgrounds neighborhoods would come up here and say, I've had enough of the harness racing, I can't hear myself think anymore. I think we had a couple of complaints and they were addressed, and I think, everybody would agree that the additional nights of harness racing are not disruptive. So I'm not going to tell you what we should do, but I think you know what to do. All right, so let's get on to a couple other things. We had an excellent meeting with Cumberland, North Yarmouth, Falmouth. Frankly, they were very receptive. I didn't hear a single person say, I don't want to do this or I don't want to tread on that. And so I think there's opportunities for us to move ahead with public works, fire, rescue, police departments, even office staff. And there has to be an effort on everybody's part to look at ways that we can save money. We may not save money in the short run, but we might be using the term we're just not going to increase as rapidly in our costs. But certainly there's lots of areas for us to explore, and I think we decided we'd get back together in the first part of December for another meeting. Lands and Conservation Commission had a meeting, and I'll let Andrew address that in far more detail than I'm going to. There's an effort underway to talk about how to recycle food waste, and I can see that it's going to be a slog to get there, but at least people are talking about it. And then the last thing I have is we have a referendum coming up, and actually I got 2 things. I wonder if it would be appropriate to have the police chief come in and just talk to us for a minute or 2 about the red flag initiative on our ballot. I can't say that I have a lot of I don't know how I would vote, and if it might be appropriate for him to come in and explain to it. I think some of the initiatives, other ballot initiatives, are a lot clearer to me. But anyways, some thoughts on that. And then I see that the meeting to discuss housing has been pushed off until November. I thought we were going to do that in October.
We're having our joint meeting with the comprehensive plan as well as the planning board to look at LD 1829 after we all sort of figured out that we wanted a part 2. There are some affordable housing provisions within that statute, so kind of thinking that it would be good to understand what the new law means as far as affordable housing, because it also gives additional flexibility for certain projects. So we will have that meeting, and then the next meeting after that will be the affordable housing workshop. Councillor Douglas.
Okay, great. A few things. Capital housekeeping things. Capital improvement meeting format. Just a thought in my brain. Matt, is there a way that we could have like a format that's the same for every department for how they're presenting? I don't know what that format is, but I think it'd be helpful if we had a cadence that we could follow from a just like digestion perspective and then also recapping perspective. Just a thought. And then do we have a status on the website update? Is that still happening in November?
Earlier than planned,
Do tell.
end of October.
Okay. I look forward to it.
Big
I did
reveal.
have a question if anything came from the LCC meeting about the composting presentation. Any next steps? You said that it was going to take a while, but nothing came from that.
I think Andrew can cover that better.
So the big thing that came from that is there are, Bob, refresh or correct me if I'm wrong, but like 3 general different paths to go by. One is really focused on education of reducing food waste in the first place. And then there is having some sort of community composting available, whether that's at the brush dump where we currently have compost, but then adding food scraps to that as opposed to just horse manure for the nitrogen.
Okay.
And then the third thing is to sort of mimic what has happened statewide in Vermont, where you have, and these are paths or potential paths, or nothing's been decided, or necessarily suggested, of having an ordinance that is no food scraps, and you define food scraps in waste that's picked up out of town.
Okay.
And that's one of those things where it's more on the honor system of, but the thought is, education is a really good way to go. It's obviously the cheapest to try to educate people on that, and it helps everybody if you're able to reduce the amount of food that you're wasting and then throwing out, or having to do something with, whether it's going to the trash or the compost. And potential of, if we did it, some sort of community composting here, the 2 big options would be, at the brush dump, or having some sort of pickup somewhere from Garbage to Garden, or maybe in a few places in town where you can bring your food scraps to that, and Garbage to Garden will take care of it.
Okay. Cool.
And they've got suggestions on that.
Have they been looking into any of the technology that's available? Like I'm leasing this thing called a mill. I don't know, Denise, have you heard about these?
Is that like the countertop composter thing?
No, it's
not
a
like- no, it's
floor
like-
model.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a floor model, and I got it because you can put all of your food scraps in, and it dehydrates it, and you can also use it for me with my chickens. Like, you can use it as chicken
Always
feed.
comes back to the chicken.
I know, it always comes back to the chickens, but it's amazing. I mean, and so I was curious, and they're quite expensive to purchase outright, which is why we leased one, but I was curious as to whether or not they're also looking, or if they could maybe look into some of those programs as well, because it's really, I know there are a lot of people, and again, it's not just about the chickens, but like trash bags, right? If people are looking to take down costs of buying the trash bags, there's a cost savings, I think, or at least we've found. I know it's partially anecdotal. But it would just be interesting to see if they had any information or data about some of the tech that's out there.
So there wasn't any discussion of anything like that.
Yeah.
On the technology side, it was more of the composting at the more industrial size of, how Garbage to Garden goes up to an aerator, digester that can deal with a lot more pollution. Plastic pollution bags and all that might creep in, and how that would be a little harder for us to deal with. So we'd have to be a little bit more rigorous on our side at the local end. But how that would also mean that the compost that we produce is much higher quality than anything that's produced from the digester, and then we can get a higher price for it. If we're selling it or anything like that, and it just means a little bit more work on our end to make sure that people it goes back to the education in the first place of, don't throw plastic bags in there, diapers or food or pet waste or anything like that can't go in at all. But no matter what, you're going to have some level of contamination, most likely. Even the stickers on your banana, that shouldn't go in the compost kind of thing. But no discussion on like the more individual size technology that might help with something like this.
No, it's not scalable necessarily, but sometimes just the more information that's out there could be helpful, like even if it's just from an education perspective, and not just for chicken enthusiasts. Did you have anything else?
Yeah, I have a couple more
Get it,
things.
girls.
Anyway, okay, just for clarity, next steps on the school issue. Matt, you're gonna champion that, or I just want to understand what we're kind of next stepping on that.
Yeah, staff's going to continue their efforts to work at compliance with their approvals that they have in
Okay.
place. And
Okay.
then we're looking to get sound measurements on this Friday to
Okay.
try to have that to move forward. And then continue our conversations there.
Okay.
I will also, I'm in pretty close contact with Leanne Kindora, so
Yeah.
I will bring this to her as well to
Cool.
understand whether or not the school board, I don't know if folks.
They would be involved necessarily?
I know
Yeah.
folks have gone to the superintendent's office. I don't know
Yeah.
if they've actually gone to the school board themselves.
Okay.
And so it would be good just to get her perspective and the board's perspective and their level of awareness.
Totally.
And then kind of take it from there. I think
Yeah.
would be reasonable and also would be, I think, a good act of faith in reaching out to another stakeholder, no special treatment by any means, but also to understand what their perspective is, what their level of knowledge is.
Okay.
And then we could take next steps based off of Matt's information and anything else that comes from the board.
Okay. And just for my knowledge, does the school technically own the property, or do we own the property? The land?
The SAD owns it.
Okay.
And then if they ever decide to leave there, then they have to offer it to the town. that-
First right of refusal? Okay. Thank you. And then, okay, we have a library meeting on October 15th at 5:30 PM at Wescuskogo. We have Coastal Waters Commission meeting on October 28th at 6:30 PM. That's here at Town Hall, I believe. And then one other thing, I'll send you and Helene a note on, but I would definitely be curious to dive into the business valuation comment that the gentleman brought up that was here earlier. Just curious if that is going to be mirrored here in town, why that happens. Just like trying to get your insights into that, and then I'll share that with the council if I get it as well, because I just think that's a curious thing to happen.
Happens a lot.
Yeah, that was a lot.
It-
seemed
it- no,
kind
it
of
ha-
odd.
it happens a lot.
Does it?
Yeah, generally what you've found in the past decade or so is that commercial properties haven't appreciated at the level that residential properties have.
Yeah.
So what you find is there's a shift, and meaning that the commercial properties were paying more than their fair share because they were closer to being assessed at full value. So those properties that are underassessed and have been for a long time haven't been paying their fair share. So there's a shift that takes place within the market. So
Okay.
South Portland had that happen really big. They had a huge shift. Yarmouth is having that as well. Cumberland is, I mean, it's not
Is
the
business
commercial
centric.
component isn't
Yeah.
as great as a percentage of the whole data set of the real estate in the town. So I don't see there would be as much of a shift. You may find a shift between newer homes and older homes.
Mhm.
Newer homes are generally assessed closer to their full value than an older home, just because there's depreciation, things along those lines that take place. It's, I would share Ms. Spalding's opinion. It's not going to be a non-painful experience. Revals are by their nature, and I don't look at it and saying, okay, it's all going to be great. The mill rate's going to drop. Values are still going to go up. There are going to be folks who are going to have their taxes are going to go up. They say a third. You know, a third goes up, a third goes down, a third stays about the same. Generally, that holds there. I mean, but this is a significant swing in value that's going to take place. because you're below 50% of assessed value now, or meaning that a house maybe that's assessed at $100,000 might sell for 3, or that $300,000 house assessment's going to sell for 7.
Yeah.
You know, the median sale price in town is about $700,000 right now.
Oh, wow.
So there's going to be some serious updates in value, that it's not non-traumatic. It just is. And so I think we need to be prepared for that. The other side of it, it is revenue neutral, meaning that the town doesn't have this great windfall in revenues as a result of doing a revaluation. So during the budget process, you know, when we're looking at it from the staffing side and bringing forward our budget, we're looking at the net year-over-year kind of change and making our recommendations based on that going forward. And we're looking at a conservative, and there's a lot of things in play in next year's budget and next year's tax rate. So being mindful of that first and foremost is going to be, from the staffing side of it, that's going to be our prime directive, is to come up with conservative numbers and say, okay, this is where we're at, because there's too many other moving parts on the in play right now to look at it. I mean, you just have to come up with a responsible budget and bring that to the council.
Yeah.
I know that Whitney and Matt, we've kind of talked a little bit about a communication plan and maybe some sessions with Clint. Could we maybe be prepared in our next manager's report just to share out what that is, so that folks have an idea of what the communication plan, or just what's the plan for the plan, so that they know what's coming. And also, I think to Jenna's point earlier, that they also have runway to understand what that tax impact is going to be, so that they could make plans accordingly. But just knowing when, where, and how people can get more information kind of as it comes, I think would be helpful.
Yeah, we've got a mailer that Whitney and Clint have been working on to get that out. We're also working to have Clint come to the first council meeting in November to do who, what, when, where, and why of the reval, to try to kind of get that started. And then with a couple of different updates, looking at possibly January and April as well for updates as far as where the process is. But you need to get, they need to wrap that up and get the information out. So there's a lot of work going on in the background right now with evaluations and analysis. But he needs to come in and sit down with the council and kind of give you the full, pardon that phrase, but dog and pony show. To show you all houses across town, what they've sold for, what they're assessed for, and why it needs to be done, and the reasons, and the reasons behind why that needs to take place, and what the plan is going forward as well. That's a very important aspect of this, is not to wait another 10, 12, 15 years to do a revaluation, but do updates every couple of years. That way you don't get that delta, doesn't get so great between what a property is assessed at and what its market value is, as well as it gives you consistent and stable tax rates as well, versus getting up to from $12 to $25 over a decade's worth of time. So that's all that, the responsibility for him to bring that forward.
Yeah.
And I was just going to say, like, in whatever ways that we can also, in addition to having those presentations as part of the council meeting, I think Whitney, you do a great job at this, but if you don't listen to town council meetings and you're not familiar with terms like mill rate, how can we make this information digestible and really for people to understand, okay, this is what this means for me, right? And visuals, I always think, are a good thing if possible. But anyway, just food for thought.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it for me.
Councilor Magoon?
So I would just like to say, Matt, thanks for at least answering sort of one of the questions that sort of came up of how we're going to do the revals next time, like sort of what the plan is for every 2, 3, that we're thinking about that, and realizing that we had some issues with, things beyond our control, people retiring, et cetera, that have pushed this to where it is, but so we're not in this situation again. One of the other things that came up at the LCC meeting was dogs on trails, specifically off-leash dogs on private property where trails go through, and how, people need to, respect the private property, especially, respect the rules on town property, but especially private property, because there are homeowners throughout town who are giving access to the public to their land, and if they say dogs need to be on leash them, because there have been issues with that, and to the point where people are thinking about revoking public access to those trails, and that would be a huge detriment to the town, the ability for people to get outside and all that. But if people can't follow the rules with their animals, I would be in that same situation of saying no more. So please respect especially on private property, any trail markings or anything like that, for keeping dogs on leash. We had last week, the rec committee was finally able to meet. It's been a while. And one thing that I wanted to two things I want to highlight of that. One, they averaged about 350 kids a day in the summer camp programs, which is a lot, and pretty impressive. And I forgot what the exact number Pete had, but pretty much all Cumberland North Yarmouth kids, with a few out, but pretty much everybody that wanted to was able to get in. And it's going to be interesting when they start working on Maple Eye. I don't know if that's next summer or the year after that, but they've been doing a great work there with getting kids to do stuff, be outside and all that during the summer. And then there was also an update on the Twin Brook Master Plan. That has been, I think, going a little slower than initially planned. But I think that's better to go that way and sort of make sure that we're getting all the ducks in the row before putting something out, or before it's ready. On the Greeley Road side, there's the fields over there, the football practice fields, the baseball fields, the softball field. That is all leased by the town. I think that was part of the agreement to get state funding. Bob, correct me if I'm wrong, but for the new middle school, was the fields that were going to be destroyed at the middle school were going to be effectively replaced by these, and working on the exact lease language for that, and the exact delineations of where that is, so everybody's on the same page, because I think over time agreements have gotten lost in the shuffle, it sounds like. But that, I believe, is with the lawyers and with town staff that's gone back and forth between MSAD and the town. Right now, looking at, sort of codifying some and getting some of the rules and policies down on paper that have been sort of, this is just how we do things, but actually having some in writing for that. And, still looking at the potential of playground, and then with the LCC of getting to the delineation of between where Parks and Rec sort of has the major say on things, where LCC and the different subcommittees, forestry, trails, invasives, et cetera, have the main priority there, and then the overlap and getting the working together on that. I think getting that reinvigorated of where those delineations are. And then to Matt's comment earlier about absentee voting, take advantage if you can. We have such a great way to vote in any election. The absentee times and all is really fantastic, and really different from other parts of the country where it's much harder to vote. There's much shorter times, a lot more hoops to go through. And I would just say, everybody says each election, this is the most important election ever. And it kind of gets old, but it is, because it's like each breath is the most important breath you take. You know, each election is that renewal of the oxygen into democracy. So even though it's not a big national election, you know, it's still important. We've got stuff on the ballot at the state level, got stuff at the town level. You know, it's, if you can, get out there and vote. That's it.
Thank you, sir. Councillor Eads.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A couple of things. Bob, you asked about the red flag information. The state police have come out against it. The Maine Chiefs are against it. The two biggest police unions in the state are against it. So I think getting Chip in here and hearing is important. I'm glad you brought that up. But there's a lot more to this, and I think this law is subject to a lot of abuse, and we've got a really good working yellow flag law right now. They tweaked it, but I think bringing Chip in is going to be very good. Tonight, someone mentioned the water on up towards Bruce Hill, and I just want to let people know that Tig and I and Matt talk usually every Wednesday, and I don't remember a time when we haven't talked about the water on Bruce Hill, and that's a priority for some of us on the council. I mean, our TIF money we have, if it can be used to improve that, I think should be before anything else. It's a certain amount of money in that TIF fund, and our number one should be our residents that are already here. But we've talked about that for a while, and it is on our radar screen. And the question is, you know, I know Portland Water District's got some ideas in the pot on how to improve the water pressure, and we've got to get that before we can just throw down some lines. But I just don't want people to think that it's not on our radar screen. As far as the schools, I really was mixed tonight, and I didn't say much because I think someone said, you know, give us time to digest it. You know, if you move next to a railroad track, you're going to hear train noise. If you move next to a gun range, you're going to hear gunshots. And if you move next to the school, you're going to hear school noise. But I think the secret word to this is reasonable. What is reasonable? I mean, I've lived down on Tutter Road and off of Greeley Road pretty much all my life, and I've heard the schools going back to the 70s and 80s. I've heard the PA systems. I agree with Dave. I think it's part of, to me, it's a sound of community. But there has to be a reasonable effort made by the school to minimize it, and that's kind of where I'm at it. And I just, you know, I and the council at the time voted to create the quiet zones on the railroad tracks, and I remember speaking to one of the councilors at the time that if the train traffic was the same as it was in the 60s and 70s as it is now, I never would have voted for that, but things change. And, you know, we went from 1 or 2 trains a day on our tracks to 12, 14.
30.
So it's, I think we can find a reasonable solution to this. I really do. So, Madam Chair, that is all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, I want to just also underscore kind of what you said, Mike, about Bruce Hill and the water situation. I mean, I think everyone is feeling, even more so the folks who are having some issues with their wells and the fear of them going dry. I mean, that's terrifying in this drought. And this might be a one-off. It may not be a one-off, but the root cause is there. And this is a problem that seems to have been going on for like the last 20 years, probably much longer. And so, yeah, that is a high priority for me personally. I would like to move heaven and earth to figure out how we can get, whether it's the Blueberry Hill tank or it's some other kind of solution, how we can solve that problem. Okay, October 19th, just back to the LCC. So they would love to do a walkthrough of one of the town properties, one of the forests. I always find this to be a great activity, especially looking at invasives and kind of the impact. So I can shoot a note out to folks offline, but if people are available on the 19th, which is a Sunday, that would be a great thing for us to do. And if we can't do the 19th, we could look to other dates. And then I also had a note, there were 2 resignations from the LCC, and typically on committees, as far as I've seen, usually I've just sort of thought it was the committee chair that accepts the resignation, and then we then reappoint. But as a council, I don't recall us ever, I mean, this is probably a question for you, Mike. If someone resigns on the comprehensive plan or on the LCC, or do we have to then accept that resignation, or is it reasonable for the chair of that committee to accept the resignation and then make it incumbent on us to nominate the replacement?
I think it's, for me, just simplify it. Let them accept the resignation, and then we'll fill it.
I would just love some council consensus as to whether or not folks think that's reasonable or not.
Agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
Okay, great. There was some confusion from one of the committee chairs, so they were nervous that maybe they were usurping our authority. So I will be happy to report that they are not, and therefore they can accept those resignations, and we will look forward to hopefully some replacements. That is it from me. Lots of really exciting public meetings coming up, and hopefully we'll see everybody there, and we'll see you all again on October 27th. Yes, Councilor Thorson, what's shaken?
2 things I forgot about. One, Shirley mentioned, cost sharing agreement status. What's the status on that? If we decided to move forward with something like that, what is the process? Is that like you set a date to hold a public hearing, you hold a public hearing, you act on it, it's a vote, majority of us decide this is the thing? Is there like North Yarmouth involvement as well, or is this something that we drive? Like, is there a majority consensus in the 2 groups? How does that work exactly? Like, what's the process?
I'm gonna pivot to,
No, go ahead, Matt.
I was just gonna say, I can provide to the council a full memo just as to the steps, because it's all laid out by statute.
Okay, got it.
How that's
And
done.
Denise, I think we have a written agreement between the town and the school and us on what the percentages are,
Right.
but obviously you'd have to look at it and see what the exceptions are to change it. Is it when the new numbers come in, or?
Yeah, generally, like right now, it's based on valuation, so that's how they end up doing it. So, yeah, the SAD or the towns that make up the school administrative district have the ability to determine what method by which they want to allocate the cost. And so, but there's a whole step-by-step process laid out if the
You
group
laid
does
that
want
out,
to do it.
or somebody laid that out to us last year.
Yeah,
and I
Bill
believe-
Stockmeyer did, I think, when we were at that.
Let me know how I can support you there, because I'm in support of doing that. I think it's a good housekeeping thing to have a plan when we're looking back at it, like every 5 years we're reassessing it.
Right.
I'm in full support of that, so I'm definitely happy to support you getting anything you need pulled together.
Okay. I just remember, as an audience member, hearing former town manager Bill Shane talk about how we're going to do it this time, we're going to do it this time,
Yeah.
like getting it going so that it's like just based on enrollments, like fair,
Yeah.
like straight across whatever. And then it just, I
I
don't know,
think we
just
owe it
seems
to
like
the
it comes up and then
taxpayer,
it's
yeah.
just,
I
it
agree.
falls off, and it's kind of, I'm just curious what the actual process is, but it sounds like there is a process. But other than that, I wanted to mention the housing authority meetings. I have not been to them lately, and the scheduling has become a problem. I don't know if, Bob, you've been making them, but there are meetings that happen at as early as 2 p.m., and I just can't. 2, 3, 4 p.m. are the usual times for those, and that's really not sustainable for me. I don't know if there's anyone else who has the time, who would want to fill in during those time periods, but like as a council liaison to a committee like that, those times just don't work anymore, and it's not, I'm doing my best, but I just can't. Like, anything prior to 5 is hard, so.
You have you work full time? Wait, you have a full time job? No, I think it is.
But yeah, that's a thing, and it's like indefinite. If those are going to be the times, I just won't be able to make them.
I think we've got you covered.
You have a job. What are you doing?
I just walk off the job.
Psst, boss man. All right, Bob. Bob's got it.
Do you want to stay on the committee?
Sure. I just don't want to, be the one that's always absent, and then it's like, why are you even on it? So, I mean, if no one else wanted to take the place, they could do it. Like,
I couldn't do it. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like, I can't even tell you what state I'm in some days.
right.
So,
So no, I'm fine staying on. I just wanted to put that out there that I'm going to be absent a lot of the time, if that's going to be the schedule.
Or maybe we could see if a schedule change could be accommodated, which I think would be reasonable. It's a good word for
Maybe,
It seems to work for
yeah.
people on the committee, though, and I wouldn't want to impose that just because me, just the liaison person, can't make it. Like, I'm not the main character here. They are.
Yeah, I think at this next meeting, I think we can talk to the chair and see about, because it was just trying to shoehorn it into everybody's schedule
Right.
on that day, and and I think we were triple parked with meetings on that same day, so they said, well, if
Makes
we meet
sense, yeah.
earlier. But we can reach out to the chair and just say, if we could look at it, I mean, the item that they have on the next is just looking at setting future rent numbers.
Mhm.
And making a change from that based on what they were looking at last month. So I think they could work around that. So I can talk to staff and do outreach to the authority and see about, we can get let's say a more attractive meeting time.
Okay. And it's usually televised, so, like, I'll catch on YouTube what I missed. So it's not that big of a deal. I just wanted to kind of explain why I don't show up. It's not on purpose. Just can't make those times. That's all.
I think it's pretty hard for most of us to make them.
All right.
Sure is.
Denise, maybe we can get Ron Kopp to fill some of these committees.
I mean, clearly he's got
While he's
some
here.
time.
I mean, I cannot even believe you're still sitting here. I
Right?
don't even know what to do with that.
Um,
I'll give you a motion to adjourn.
yeah. Is there a second? Great. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Unanimous, Brenda.